cabling and securing a mighty old oak, a heritage oak tree. We have 9 main stems. We pulled a tape around the basal root crown flare, and we found that the tree is over 20 feet in circumference. So this is a giant old growth tree, heritage status tree. And so we wanted to send this tree into the future and let this tree grace generations yet to come. We've secured the cable, safety of the tree by installing 719 stainless steel cable, 1/4 inch and 5/16 cables as the need suggests. And we have anchor points and forged eye bolts that have been installed. We've got about 14 cables in this tree. So what we've done to replace these cables, we've used winches to pull the existing loads up, to take up the existing loads that the old cables are supporting, transferring that to our winches and ropes. Then we've cut out the old cabling, the solid malleable galvanized steel wire, replaced with stainless steel, using our thimble and Nycopress fittings. So we've used the Nycopress copper swedge fittings to secure our cable ends. We've been able to reuse a lot of the anchor points. They were properly installed a long time ago with 5/8 threaded stock and forged eye bolts. So we've upgraded and renewed and re-strengthened the supports to this tree. If this tree did not have a target, perhaps the cabling wouldn't be necessary, but we have a building on either side of this giant old tree, and so we have to consider that the tree does have a target. It has a couple of targets, and failures cannot be tolerated. The tendency of the oak is to arch into rounded crown descending forms. This is a decurrent species. They will arch, they'll come all the way to the ground unpruned. We're countering the forces of this decurrent tendency. If these big lateral limbs were unpruned or unmanaged or uncabled, we would find that over time they slowly settle lower, lower, lower. They descend. Pretty soon they're on the ridge beam of the building. So this cabling assures that these lateral limbs will not descend any lower or change or come down to the roof lines of the building. So this is preventative and precautionary. Even though we see about an 18-inch or 20-inch gap from the big lateral limb over the ridge beam, over time we would find that that gap would slowly decrease until finally the tree is in contact with the building. And we're not going to wait for that to happen. We've got a couple of nice cables in here to stabilize that tendency, this descending lateral form characteristic. It's not just the tips grow to the ground, but the lateral limbs themselves will slowly, slowly, slowly want to descend. So our cabling assures that no more descending is going to occur. We've stabilized up to the central lead of the tree and then out to the far counterbalancing laterals in the opposite direction. So the tree is stabilized in 360 degrees all the way around. We've pulled opposing laterals and cabled between them up to the central lead and back out to the decurrent laterals on the fringes and secured the tree in the form that we see it now. We haven't changed the form of the tree. We're not manipulating the form of the tree so much as stabilizing the form of the tree. So our overall form is to hold everything from being torn out from the main root crown. All of these loads are straight line tensils. In every case, we've tried to put our anchor points in direct line pulls. We don't want too much of a tangent pull. We've tried to make all of our pulls in line with our anchors, and so this is considered the strongest methodology. So that's what we've striven to do in every case, is to make all of our anchor points and our cablings in a straight line so that we don't have tangent loads on our anchor points. When a tree has been cabled, it's good practice to inspect the tree every year or every other year at least. We want to come back, double check on things, make sure our cabling is holding, we don't have any weeping or bleeding spots, we don't have any failures, any tear outs, any cracks occurring, and so an annual inspection is considered good practice. We want to double check on our work, make sure everything is held and nothing has failed. So we'd like to look at this tree about once a year, check back up on it, make sure everything is holding steady and we don't have any failures or defects underway. Any wind throw or accumulation of dead wood could also be pruned out at that time. We can also manage the weight of the tips of the laterals. If they get a little too heavy, a little too dense, we can thin and lighten them out as the need arises. This tree is already in mature form. It's not going to change that much over time. So it's just a question of maintaining vitality and strength and health. we see this tree going into the future. So our cabling is really a precaution and a maintenance and a process of protecting the tree from the potentials of failures. So basically our maintenance from this point forward is removal of defects, dead wood, broken wood, diseased wood. We're not going to change the form of the tree, we're not going to restrain the tree, we're not going to manipulate this canopy to a great deal. We're going to try to maintain the canopy that we have. This tree is in mature form. It's not going to change that much. There will be some tip development on these long laterals that could arch down to the roofs, and we'll manage them back up to laterals as the need arises. A tree like this is vulnerable to failures when we consider that each of these 9 trunks is in full cantilever. Every trunk is in full cantilever against all the other trunks. So with those kind of gravitational forces on the tree, it's pretty easy to imagine a big trunk tearing out and pulling out of the main root crown. This is the main thing that we want to prevent. If this was a single leading trunk specimen tree, maybe this cabling would not be necessary. But in a tree of this nature, with these multiple trunks, all in full cantilever, all arching away from each other, this sets the tree up to, in some degree, to vulnerability. So by cabling, we offset the danger of these massive cantilevers by stabilizing with cables in between opposing arching laterals.